Last year when I was in Morocco, he was ready to marry me. He was rushing me to the U.S. Embassy to get the required paperwork.
Well, that doesn't sound good, does it? Your 24-year-old fiancé was rushing you to get married, Debbie. You never mentioned that before. But fortunately, something's changed since then. You see, even though Debbie thinks she's moved to Morocco permanently to marry her Prince Charming, for some reason, Oussama is no longer in such a rush.
I know that you feel hurt.
You lied to me.
No, it's not a lie.
I'm using a tremendous amount of self-control. I'm trying to keep it together without wringing his neck.
Poor Debbie has been through some highs and lows in this episode, but before we find out about why she's ready to kill Oussama and why he's changed his mind about their wedding, let's check back in on them after they first reunited at the airport. So, it's been a year since Debbie was last in Morocco, and now they're in a cab on the way to the capital city of Rabat. The way Debbie's looking at Oussama is like the human embodiment of the heart eye emoji. She's such a positive bubble of energy, and she's feeling really good about her move to this North African country. Yeah, enjoy that feeling while it lasts, Debbie. It's not gonna last long.
It's like I feel safe, secure, happy. It's like I'm young again and everything is bright and the future is like for us to take and to do good with.
Look, I love Debbie's vibe. She has a real zest for life. But what she just said, that's the whole crux of this relationship, isn't it? Oussama makes Debbie feel young and like she's alive. Debbie is such a creative, adventurous spirit. But after the breakdown of her second marriage, after she found out he'd been cheating on her, Debbie locked herself away from the world for years. And a relationship with Oussama allows her to be that woman again, to rediscover that wild, adventurous, crazy side of herself. And right now, in this moment, she's living her best life. But while Debbie's floating around in bliss, I couldn't help but notice Oussama's little motion here.
I can't believe I'm just sitting by Oussama like this is normal style. Oh yeah. It's like this is my new normal.
Is this gonna be another Nicole and Mahmoud situation? I know that Morocco is a Muslim country, and from that action, it seems like Oussama isn't happy with Debbie exposing her shoulders or her arms. It'll be interesting to see how strict Oussama and his parents will be about that. Now, the pair have plans to stay in Morocco's capital city, Rabat, for a few days, after which they'll be moving to a smaller village to meet and live with Oussama's parents on their farm. As far as Debbie's aware, the plan isn't to stay on the farm for long, and in her mind at least, she thinks they're going to be getting married very soon, at which point they'll move out of his parents' house and move into their own apartment back in the capital. The only problem is, Debbie still doesn't know that Oussama's been keeping something pretty major from her.
But before me and Debbie get married, I need some time to know each other more in reality. But الحاجة اللي ما عرفهاش ديبي دابا بإني مستعد أني نتزوج بها حاليا.
It's hard to tell yet how Debbie's going to react to this. She seems to be such a go-with-the-flow kind of person that she might actually be okay with it. But time will tell, because right now, she better brace herself for one or two more shocks. When Debbie asks Oussama what his expectations will be from her after she becomes his wife, we get a little more intel on how traditional he really is.
First, I want you to be like half Moroccan woman.
Half of a Moroccan woman?
Cooking food in home, cleaning my clothes.
Why, Oussama, at this time, are you saying I need to become half of a Moroccan woman? You weren't telling me that stuff before.
Debbie's chill, but she's not that chill. It seems like Oussama hasn't really been honest with her about what he wants from this marriage. Now that she's here in Morocco, he's pitching the idea that he expects Debbie to be a Moroccan woman in part. He wants to use their stay at his parents' house to see if she can be that sort of wife for him. Has Oussama been talking to Rishi or something? Here's yet another guy putting his American bride-to-be through cultural wife training. And you can see why Debbie is unimpressed. The poor woman is 67 years old. I hardly think she wants to be running around doing the laundry for a 24-year-old man.
Sometimes we can get takeout too.
Yeah, I understand.
And have our wine and our takeout.
For the wine, we can drink the wine at home.
Okay, so Debbie is willing to try and learn some Moroccan recipes for Oussama, but she also wants takeaways and wine. hold on a minute. We all know that alcohol is a big no-no for Muslims, isn't it? What's going on here? This isn't the first time that Debbie's been in Morocco with Oussama. So is she implying that they've drunk wine before in the past? I thought Oussama told us he was a good Muslim.
In Morocco, in Islam, it's got it like when you bring a wine or any kind of drugs inside the house, it's like make the angels go outside of the home and make the devils come inside.
Oussama reveals that he just doesn't drink inside his parents' home out of respect for his mum and dad. But when he wants a cheeky drink, he does so someplace else. So it seems like he's not that strict about his religion after all. But nonetheless, he expects Debbie to follow his rules, however unclear they may be. Unsurprisingly, Debbie's not liking all of the surprises that Oussama has dropped on her in this cab ride.
This was never a part of the plan. You know, I don't know what I'm getting myself into in Chemiset. Whew, I need a drink just thinking about it.
Oussama and Debbie will be spending the night in a traditional Moroccan hotel, and it looks to be a really nice hotel. It's a sweet gesture from Oussama, and he says that he picked out this place specifically to inspire Debbie and her artistic soul. Now, whilst they will be sleeping in separate rooms, we can't read anything into that because that is common. That's the law in Morocco for unmarried couples. Plus, Debbie's absolutely fine with that too.
Here in Morocco, me and Debbie, we need to sleep like different rooms till we get married because it's a law here.
That's fine and dandy with Miss Debbie.
After a long day's travelling, Debbie is tired and she's more than happy to have a bed to herself. But that does raise the question, have Oussama and Debbie ever been intimate together on any of Debbie's 2 previous trips to Morocco? It's something to keep in mind, isn't it? I mean, for all of Oussama's talk about being attracted to Debbie's spirit and her soul, I don't recall him ever saying that he's attracted to her physically. So how well do these two actually know each other? I'm a bit concerned that Debbie isn't quite in touch with what the reality of living in Morocco is actually going to be like.
It has a feeling of like an adventure and romance and intrigue. It's like all those things are my new reality and I'm loving it.
Debbie's enamoured by this beautiful hotel, and who wouldn't be? But I hope she keeps in mind that this is Morocco through the eyes of a tourist. Living on a farm in a tiny village with Oussama's parents is going to be very different. I think she's going to be in for a shock, especially if she's expecting it to be as exotic or beautiful as this hotel. How will she take that in her stride? Well, I'm excited to see, but for now, the pair freshen up for their first dinner in Morocco together. And Debbie's got some pressing issues that she wants to bring up with Oussama as soon as possible.
There are some things I want to talk to Oussama about tonight. You know, I want to talk to him more about the time frame of staying with mom and dad.
Now, Debbie, rightly so, is a little concerned about just how long Oussama wants to stay at his parents' house. She hasn't just uprooted her entire life to go and live with her partner's parents for an indefinite period of time, who, by the way, are probably her age or younger. But what Debbie doesn't know is Oussama isn't yet ready to marry her. So is tonight the night that Oussama will actually break this news to her?
Should I prepare to stay a couple of days or a week? What do you think?
For me, you can stay all the time you want. You can stay 1 month in home, 2 months.
I don't think Oussama actually gets where Debbie's coming from. She wants less time, not more. Debbie can't wait for the two of them to start their lives together. And I think that when she finds out Oussama isn't quite so keen to get married, she's gonna feel very betrayed. When Oussama tries to give Debbie the time frame that she's looking for, he suddenly makes things a lot more confusing.
For the apartment, I think we need to save some money, as you will stay here like 2 months or 1 month, and after you will leave to the US.
This was not what Debbie was expecting. As she told us when she first landed in Morocco, she had a very clear plan of how she expected things to go.
We're gonna go meet mom and dad in Chemiset, get married, and then move back to Rabat and get our apartment.
But now, Oussama is telling her that they should stay with his parents for up to 2 months, save some money, and then Debbie should go back to the States. That's before they're meant to buy their own apartment. Now, we know Oussama's trying to put off the wedding, we get that, but why does he want Debbie to go back to the States? She's just packed up her life. She's said goodbye to her kids. She's under the assumption she's not going back to the States anytime soon. So you can imagine just how confused she is by what Oussama's just said.
I'm kind of confused at the point. It's like, you say I'm going to be here 2 months at your mom and dad's house, and then you want me to go back to the States?
Yep.
Debbie's getting mad. You can tell she doesn't like what she's hearing here, and she has every right to be angry. Oussama allowed her, encouraged her to fly out there under the false pretense that they'd be getting married. She thought she was about to start a new life out there. She'd even written up a prenup. But now, after she's flown across the world, he's telling her he's not ready. Now look, don't get me wrong, he's 24 years old, she's 67. So yeah, he's definitely allowed to not be ready. But he should have let her know that before she got on the plane. That's the bit that I have the issue with. But then again, what exactly did Debbie expect from a boy less than half her age?
First, we have to know my family, how they are, how they live, and after we will get married.
Wow, Oussama. I wish you would have told me that before I came.
Oussama's showing a lot of maturity for his age, and he is right about this. Like, the pair should get to know each other and live together, at least for a short while, before they get married. But Debbie doesn't like it. She doesn't like what he's saying. These plans are interfering with the whirlwind Moroccan romance that she was picturing herself having. And while she's upset about her dream shattering, what she's most upset about is that Oussama wasn't being honest with her.
I would have welcomed Oussama saying, okay, Debbie, I need you over here 2 months before we can see if we're a good fit for each other. I'm using a tremendous amount of self-control. I'm trying to keep it together without wringing his neck.
So here she is, stuck in a foreign country with a man she thought she knew, but now she's not so sure. Debbie asks Oussama why he wasn't just honest from the beginning, and he admits he was afraid that if she knew, she wouldn't have come to Morocco. Oussama is infuriatingly cool and collected about the whole thing, and you can tell that Debbie wants to have an outburst of emotion, but that's made more difficult by how cold Oussama is being.
You really screwed up big time, Oussama.
Why?
It's like shame on you.
Why? Because I said the truth.
When she tries to call him out on what he's done wrong, Oussama refuses to acknowledge that he's done anything but told the truth. That's a pretty big red flag for Debbie to consider. If Oussama can't even acknowledge how he hasn't been honest with Debbie, then it's only a matter of time before she loses all trust in him.
I've spent enough time in your reality.
I know that you feel hurt.
You lied to me.
No, it's not a lie.
You lied to me.
Because I'm still want to marry you.
Isn't it funny how earlier in the day he seemed to have a big problem with lying to his parents, yet he has no such problem with lying to Debbie.
Can we sneak it? A little bit sneaky?
We'll be lying.
Well, I don't want to lie to your parents.
This is the point.
I got you.
Yep.
So yeah, we know that Oussama doesn't want to be a liar, and maybe he doesn't even see himself as a liar in this particular scenario. But Oussama, lying by omission, is still lying.
I don't believe you anymore.
I still love you as the first time. I mean, there is nothing changed in our love.
I don't believe you.
Oussama is left trying to reassure a hurt Debbie that he still loves her and that nothing's changed. But something has changed. Her trust in him is broken, and now she doesn't believe a word he says. What Oussama has to remember is that Debbie has lived a full life. She's been through 2 marriages, a cheating husband, a whole lot of sadness. She doesn't have room for his BS. And she reveals just how strange Oussama's behaviour is. He seems to be blowing very hot and cold.
Last year when I was in Morocco, he was ready to marry me. He was rushing me to the U.S. Embassy to get the required paperwork.
Uh-oh. Debbie, this happened and you're still going along with the marriage idea? Why didn't you mention this before? I'm sure if your son Julian had known, he would have had 1 or 2 things to say about this. Speaking of Julian, I wonder if Julian's trip with his mum to her lawyer's office to sort out a prenup might be factoring into Oussama's change of heart. Could the fact that her assets are now protected be the reason for Oussama's cold feet? Or is there something else at play here? I guess we'll soon find out.